Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report for the week commencing the 17th of April, by outlining some key aspects and transits taking place this week and giving an overview of what it all means. Before I do that, I just want to clarify, as I always do, that the astrology doesn't control our lives. It just gives us a framework to help us understand what is unfolding around us. It helps us to understand what kind of areas of growth are presented to us at this time. But for anything to change, it requires that we take action and we make the most of the opportunity presented, and it also requires that we make sure the action is guided by wisdom and not just blind impulse. So it's utilising the information from the astrology and applying it wisely in our own personal lives, making sure that what we're doing is in alignment with the natural laws at the same time. Now, in terms of the astrology this week, we'll go through the moon's transit as usual to begin with. So we start off with the moon in Virgo. This is a time where I may be focusing on the practicalities of life, so dealing with the daily tasks that establish greater order and sense of well-being for us. But on the same day, the moon will enter Libra. So on Wednesday, the moon's in Libra until Friday. So this is a time where I maybe have that emotional drive to focus on relationships or cultivating harmony and diplomacy and how we communicate with one another. And it's about that building of bridges with other people. And just before the moon changes signs on Friday, we'll have the second full moon in Libra this month, and this full moon is all about balance between self and other, about needs for our own sense of personal autonomy and independence versus needs of relationships, and finding that happy balance between the two. We'll go into more detail on this in a separate video, but this particular full moon just gives us a key opportunity to make sure that whatever courses of action that we're taking or however we choose to assert ourselves, we also respect the fact that we're connected with everything else. Nothing that we do happens in a vacuum, so it will rebound to us often through other people. So it's important that we respect the interconnected nature of things, and we also respect the personal needs of other people, and we don't just expect people to put their needs aside for us and make us the centre of everything for them. As I mentioned before, on the same day the moon will enter Scorpio, so this is a time where we may be looking at or experience the shadow side of things coming up, or deeper emotions and potentially old emotional complexes rising to the surface. One thing it's important to do is not to act on them, it's to make sure that if it's based on old patterns or old hurts, that we use this time to let go of them. So embrace forgiveness to let go of these old emotional patterns so that we free our minds from them. On Sunday, the moon will enter Sagittarius, and this will be a time where you may feel that drive to seek the truth, to explore new ideas or explore new landscapes in order to expand our minds. Before on Tuesday, the moon will enter Capricorn, and this will be a time where it's looking at how our lives are unfolding, whether what we're achieving is something that we're happy with, and if we're not, it's about taking personal responsibility for it. So taking responsibility for the level of fulfillment we have in our lives, and if we don't like it, taking responsibility for changing things so that we can stay true to who we are, as it were, or so we can empower ourselves to make the changes necessary in order to be living the life that we want to lead. Now, in terms of the rest of the astrology this week, there's a lot of change going on as four of the astrological bodies change sign. The first one will be on Wednesday itself. This will be Mercury. We've had Mercury in Pisces for the past several weeks, and it's been an unusually long stint in Pisces, precisely because Mercury went retrograde entirely within the sign of Pisces. So we've had a very long transit here. So as Mercury moves into Aries, finally, it may feel like a mental cloud is lifted, because Pisces deals with the unseen, if you like, or the immaterial, whereas Mercury is more used to the concrete. So with Mercury moving into Aries, it may feel like a collective cloud lifts from the mind, or at least from the rational side, and it may seem that things look more objective. But one of the things we do need to be careful of with Mercury in Aries is that we don't become impulsive with our words and impulsively following trains of thoughts. And it's also being careful that we don't seek to try and dominate conversations, to mask insecurities about our own level of intelligence or our own level of knowledge, as it were. But when one of the higher qualities of Mercury in Aries, when it's at its highest level, is a sense of mental objectivity. So it's seeing things as they are. So it's using the objectivity element of Aries to see things with crystal clarity and to inform our actions, as it were. Mercury. We also have Mars in Gemini, which is Mercury sign. So Mars and Mercury in a mutual reception here, i.e. they're in each other's signs, so they inform one another. So whereas Mars in Gemini is a bit like the actions and desires take on a more mental element, with Mercury in Aries, which is Mars's sign, you may feel like the intellect becomes more action oriented or focused on taking action. So the two can inform one another here, but it's important that we make sure that we don't operate in either level of insecurity, where either we are constantly trying domineering in conversation, or we're too assertive or aggressive in our choice of words, when it may be more wise or advisable to be tactful in how we communicate. And on the other hand, with Mars in Gemini, one of the things we need to be aware of is a fear of commitment, so fear of committing to one thing over another, because Mars in Gemini is seeking that variety. But at the high level here, Mars in Gemini gives us that opportunity to become more detached in our actions, to be able to try something out that we haven't tried before, and if we don't like it, let go of it just as easily. And it's figuring out what we do want. But if we maintain a sense of detachment from what we're doing, then we don't burn ourselves out through overextension. By being detached, we can engage in different activities at the same time without draining ourselves, because we're not investing our sense of identity or being in it. Now, the next change along will be on Saturday. So this will be the Sun entering Taurus. So we've had the Sun in Aries for the past month. So this has been all about that taking action, developing the courage and assertiveness necessary to overcome any fears and inertia. And it's been all about the germination of new goals, so the beginning point, so getting them from seed to the first leaves sprouting, as it were, or the first signs of growth. Now with the Sun in Taurus, the next phase of getting a great degree of steadiness or steadfastness behind the goals. So whatever goals have germinated, this is the time that determines whether the goal keeps on going or whether it terminates prematurely. Because with Taurus, that initial fire of enthusiasm from Aries tends to die down somewhat, and now we have to develop the steadfastness or patience of Taurus. It's also making sure that whatever we're pursuing is guided by a concrete set of values that is in alignment with who we are. So the Sun in Taurus is a very Venusian month, i.e. Taurus is ruled by Venus, so Venus becomes a key player here. And with Venus, in this time, it's about establishing core values, but also one of the gifts of Taurus at a high level is a solid sense of self-worth and self-esteem, which is necessary to ground our sense of self in the world, but also to allow us to keep pursuing goals and to maintain that forward motion. So, here at the allotment, for example, we've got seeds growing and many of them are sprouting. But if we don't do the next step of nurturing them, making sure the soil is free of weeds, of watering plants when they need it, if there isn't sufficient rain, because if we don't do this, then the crops die before they have a chance to reach full fruition where they can be harvested. So symbolically, this is a time where I need to slow right down and do the step-by-step processes necessary to keep goals going. And this is often a time where the initial enthusiasm can wear off, and we're then challenged to keep things going, to persevere. When at a high level, Taurus can have that necessary perseverance to keep doing the same tasks over and over again that are necessary to sustain a goal. It may not be the most glamorous things to be doing, but If we don't do them, then we won't be able to nurture our goals sufficiently and to make maximum yields further on, when we should be harvesting the fruits of our labours. But obviously I'll do more on this in a separate video, because Sun Taurus wants its own video in that respect. But the main thing to remember is this is a time for developing that patience and perseverance to stick to the goals and to keep them going, keep them watered so they don't abort prematurely. And it's also having a solid sense of values, and it's about becoming more grounded and connected with the earth and connected with the organic cycles, and recognise that we can't force things to grow faster than they're meant to. So why stress ourselves trying to make things happen? It's about aligning with natural timing. On the same day, Venus is moving out of Pisces into Aries. So Venus in Pisces has been all about that spiritual love and seeking a sense of oneness in relationships. But with Venus in Aries, we may have a strong need for a sense of personal autonomy or independence within the realms of relationships. Venus in Aries isn't exactly the easiest combination, because Venus is in Mars' sign. Venus is more used to the realms of relationships and connecting with people, as opposed to asserting independence, which is Mars' natural domain, i.e. Aries. So one of the things that it can also give us the capacity to assert ourselves, especially if we've been struggling to get our needs met. So it could be a time where we utilise the courage of Aries to be more assertive in our relationships and make sure that our own needs are being met. But it's also about, if we want to have a strong sense of personal self-identity in a relationship, we also need to honour the other person's need for that as well. So it's about allowing relationships to foster the independent expression of both parties, and allow both parties to be who they are, rather than expecting one person to go to compromise whilst the other person stays rigid and stubborn in their position. But one of the things we do need to be careful of is that we don't engage, if we are in any kind of important relationship with people, that we don't try to prove that we're independent or we don't need the other person, so we end up becoming cold or belligerent or unnecessarily aggressive in relationships. It's about asserting our needs whilst respecting the rights of the other person, and it's having that capacity to stand up for ourselves when there are imbalances in the relationship, but also making sure that we don't become tyrannical in the process, that we don't become so domineering that we burn bridges in relationships, when Venus ideally wants to be building bridges and building connection with people. So this is a time where we need to be mindful that we don't inadvertently burn bridges with important people in our lives because of an exaggerated need for independence, which is fueled by insecurity, as opposed to being self-assured, which is a positive expression of Venus in Aries. The next change will be on Sunday. This is Juno moving into Cancer. So Juno's been in Gemini for the past few weeks, and this has been a time where we may have desired mental stimulation or a lot of communication in relationships. With Juno moving into Cancer now, the kind of Aries, or kind of main theme that we may desire in our core relationships, or the most committed relationships, whether they be romantic, whether it be friendships that go way deeper than just a casual acquaintance, or potentially even teacher-student relationships, if that's relevant. But with Juno in Cancer, the main relationship need is about nurturing and emotional security. It's about honouring each other's emotional needs. It's also about caring for and nurturing one another and treating one another with love and empathy. So it may be a time where maybe more withdrawn within relationships, or more private, as it were, because Cancer is a very private kind of sign. It prefers to keep things out of the limelight. So this may be a time where we seek to spend more time on the home front and seek to receive more nurturing from the partner, but also to make sure that we're providing loving and nurturing qualities to the other person as well. So relationships have a more emotional dynamic as opposed to mental, like it was with Gemini. And the main thing is obviously having mutual nurturing, but also being mindful that we don't smother one another, because it's all well and good and nurturing people, but we need to make sure we don't create dependency on the other person through smothering, or we don't become dependent on another person at the same time. So there needs to be a mutual nurturing, but also avoid overdoing it. So making sure that it's a nurturing that helps the other person but doesn't create dependency in the process, because creating dependency isn't loving at all. It's about having that ability to provide nurturing and support and emotional understanding without making the other person feel dependent on us, or us become dependent on the other person. The last aspect this week is on Tuesday. This is the Sun conjunct Uranus in Taurus. This is the first Sun Uranus conjunction in the sign of Taurus for the current cycle. Last year when Uranus first moved to Taurus, the Sun would have met Uranus while he's still in Aries. So this is our first conjunction in Taurus. It's about that need to change the sense of self-identity, and it's about looking at the self-worth element of our sense of self-identity and going through the necessary transformation or revolutionary changes needed, if that's applicable, in order to become more aware of our own personal resources. And it's about deepening our awareness of them and bringing up our capacities from within. So it's looking at seeing what are we able to do with what we have already. So it's doing more with less and seeking to utilise what we already have, rather than constantly seeking to add new things or buy new things. It's moving from consumerism to seeing how can we create new things with what we already have. So it's potentially upcycling, so it's utilising or using something that we already have and transforming it or using it in a new way, so we're not trying to or having to utilise brand new resources. It's utilising what we already have, and that way, and it's also learning to share them as well. So if we have a tendency to be rather clingy or possessive with things, this particular aspect gives us an opportunity to try and break free of this clinginess or this possessive tendencies that Taurus can have, and instead learn to operate more from a detached perspective. So recognising that we don't truly possess anything other than the physical body for the duration that we're alive. So having the sense that we own something or that something belongs to us creates attachments that lead to suffering if that thing is suddenly taken away. So it's learning the need to detach and to see things from the higher perspective and see how everything serves a purpose for a time and then it moves on in life. Everything operates in cycles, and the more we try to fight against it, the more we create suffering for ourselves. So it's about moving beyond that, having that detachment to enjoy life, to appreciate what we have, and to have that sense of reverence for the gifts that are given to us through Mother Nature's bounty. It's also respecting the fact that they're not ours to own. It's there for us to enjoy for that period and then move on from it, or allow other people to utilise it if it no longer serves a purpose for ourselves, rather than hoarding it with the whole and clinging to the mindset of what if it's necessary later on, when half the time it never is. So there's a lot of change going on this week. So change is going to be a key theme for us all to deal with this week, and with it's Mercury and Venus both moving into Aries, it may feel like there's a sudden cloud lifted, but we also need to be mindful that we don't become impulsive or domineering in relationships or in communication, that we seek to be objective and practical in how we communicate, and make sure that we do it in a way that is assertive where need be, but seeks to have that objective clarity that sees things as they are, and through that clarity of vision, that then motivates us to take right action, so action that's guided by a clear headedness. And with relationships, it's about our capacity to assert our own needs without burning bridges and without trying to dominate the relationships we have or run roughshod over other people. It's about the capacity to maintain our own personal autonomy whilst simultaneously honouring the dynamics of relationships, so that both parties are given the freedom to be who they are and to do what they wish, but also to honour and respect each other in the process, and to honour the needs of the relationship so that we don't destroy the bridges in our lives. And it's also time for letting go of attachments and seeking a more utilitarian approach to how we manage our resources, and looking to align with the natural cycles rather than fighting against them, and developing the patience and perseverance needed to keep goals going so the goals that we started with the Sun in Aries don't fizzle and die out. So may this week bring you many new insights, many changes and transformation that foster your growth and allow you to pursue your goals further. Take care. May this week bring you many blessings.